Hello and good evening. Welcome to this live of Times Now. In this live, we are going to talk about JEE Main exam analysis. So, as both the sessions have concluded today, have been conducted today, so let's begin with the shift-wise difficulty level. We have the Deputy Regional Director of Akash Byjus with us. We have Dr. Sarvesh Chaube. Hi, sir.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. So, sir will be sharing us the insights. He'll be sharing us the exam analysis, the shift-wise difficulty level, and everything the aspirants want to know. So, sir, begin with how was the shift one? How was the day one and shift one of JEE main exam?
So, ma'am, shift one was pretty much in the similar trend lines which we have seen in the previous years. As a tradition, the mathematics was a little difficult for the students. Some 3 to 4 questions were lengthy as well for them to solve. Physics was easy. It was direct formula based, single conceptual based questions, as we have seen earlier also, and it was pretty easy questions. If one focuses, can easily solve 22 questions plus. And chemistry, as we have seen, the inorganic portion was directly from NCRT. Organic questions were little bit complex. Physical questions, again, physical chemistry was pretty much direct. So it is on the same trend lines what we have seen. Physics and chemistry can be said to be easier or easy to moderate, and mathematics was little near to difficult.
So, if we talk about surprises, so you're saying that there were no surprises in the shift one.
Not that we have seen, apart from 1 or 2 topics which generally is not appearing in the previous year papers. They have been asked this time, but one question can be a bouncer in any shift because there are multiple shifts and multiple test attempts. From that perspective, 1 or 2 questions can be expected here and there in the syllabus.
So, the mathematics was as compared more difficult with the physics question, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And if we talk about the section wise questions, how do you see it?
So when you say section wise, that means section A and B in each subject. That's what I understand.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So in mathematics, again, if you see, ma'am, it varies from subject to subject. In mathematics, section A was difficult for them compared to section B because the section B gave them options. They could have attempted either of these questions. So because of those options, it made them easier for section B. But section A was little difficult. That's what mathematics is on a difficult side comparatively. Compared to chemistry, if we see, section A was easier. Section B was little calculative, little more lengthy, complex, as multiple organic questions, chemistry questions were having multiple reagents. And physics, as I said, section A was much easier. Section B was easier, but a little bit calculative and lengthy. So if you see in mathematics, if section B was relatively easier than section A, whereas in chemistry and physics, it was little difficult than section A.
Okay. Here, I would like to tell our audience that they can raise questions. They can ask questions with our expert, and the expert will be answering the questions raised by the aspirants. Sir, can you tell about the expected cutoff?
It would be following the similar trend lines, ma'am, but cutoff is more respect to number of participants, and there are not one factor, there are multiple factors, correct? So one cannot just predict right now, but it is in the similar trend line, similar range of 110, can be expected as a cutoff, but only basis the shift one paper, because shift two has just ended few minutes ago, so it's difficult to state as of now.
So you were telling that there are various factors which affects the cutoff. Can you tell about it?
It's basically the number of participants, the level of the paper, the subsequent papers. If the level goes high, then the cutoff will be definitely low, or the paper gets easier, the cutoff can be higher. These are the prima facie the factors. So as of now, until unless you see the whole picture, you cannot just claim that this is a number. It can be predicted once the exam is over and you have pretty much
Exactly.
view of the all the shifts, and then you can understand the number of participants basis the notification. It will give you a fair view of idea. Basis the experience, what we understand, it would, since shift one paper was on the similar lines, and we generally don't expect any out of the box thing in JEE Mains, the pretty much same or similar kind of cutoff would be there as per the last years.
Okay, sir. Uh, any specific topic that had larger weightage in the paper today?
So it again, as we go by the subject, ma'am, mathematics, I think conic section, permutation, combination, and probability, 3D geometry, vector algebra. We have seen 2 to 3 questions from these chapters. And mathematical reasoning, a very easy chapter, but one question for sure, what we have seen earlier. And if you see for chemistry again, ma'am, if we focus, inorganic questions were directly from the NCRT, some of the database questions from the NCRT scattered across all subjects. Physical
Mhm.
questions were directly formula-based questions, and some of the in-text questions were also played a pivotal role. So those students who solved the in-text questions of NCRT and the exercise questions got an edge over the others. If you say for physics,
Yes.
definitely it was very formula-based, chapter-level questions, single concept questions. So if you have solved the NCRT in-text question and exercise properly and thoroughly, I think you are through.
So apart from NCRT, which are the sources which aspirants should refer to?
Ma'am, anything, see, NCRT is the crux as we have seen in the previous year trends. What you need to get a good college through JEE Mains, NCRT can do a lot in when you compare to for chemistry and then you compare for physics. For mathematics, the source is something it doesn't matter because the questions are from a different level. It depends more on the practice. Correct.
Okay.
But apart from NCRT, I would say whatever students have learned in their due course of time, their notes, what they have made from their hand, what have they done in their particular institutes where they have learned, that's most important to refer to. Rather than this time looking onto different news sources, I would say that focus on NCRT and your self-made notes, what you have prepared in due course of your preparation. That would be much more helpful, and psychologically you can absorb more of that content rather than any new book because it will add more of confusions to you.
Exactly. And to clear the confusions, one should try to stick to the authentic sources which are out there. And if we talk about the class-wise weightage, what was the class-wise weightage, as in like class 11th and 12th weightage?
Ma'am, if we see if this time 12th was little bit for the shift one, I'm talking in particular for shift two, we are still analyzing. It would be
Okay.
too early to say, but for 12th, we saw nearly 60% of the questions were from 12th, whatever we can collect from the memory based questions, and nearly
Mhm.
40% was from 11th. But in general, the trend varies around 50% for both 12th and 11th. So going forward, if we see a mixture of all those questions in all the shifts, we expect it to be around 50% for 11th and 12th.
Okay, sir. So, talking about the JEE Mains exam, it's a very stressful thing for students, and they generally, tend to take a lot of stress about it, and they are very concerned about the exam analysis and all. What is the one thing which you want to tell the aspirants?
Ma'am, as a habit and a human psychology, it's always something which you have not faced earlier, you will have a fear of it. For me, if at this point of time, maybe it doesn't stand relevant for this exam, but for subsequent exam which the students are going to face is ultimately you have to give the exam, correct? It's similar
True.
to you cannot play cricket just by reading a 200-page book. You have to go on the ground, play, and have an experience. Similarly, these papers also, if they focus multiple mock tests, they appear in all the previous year questions because ultimately, if you see from 2019 till date, whatever we see is more or less the similar kind of trend. And if one solves all the previous year questions with utmost sincerity and a thorough error analysis is done by topic level, I think they will be through at least easily 180 to 200 out of 300 in this paper. So the fear or stress comes from lack of practice. I think more of revision and practice can help them overcome the fear. The second thing is many a time students do prepare well for the 2 years of time for entire 11th and 12th. But when the exam time comes, they get fear of it and then they don't perform well. So those 3 hours are equally important. So 2 years of preparation is only 50%. If you prepare well for 2 years and you're not able to perform in these 3 hours, it's difficult to get a good rank, correct? So those 3 hours also you have to mentally train yourself and physically develop your mindset that okay, this is the strategy I'm going to follow. If you stick to a particular pattern and strategy and have done sufficient practice, I think you can easily overcome the fear in the exam and can come up with a flying colors in the exam itself.
Okay. So we have a query in our comment section, and Miss Kanika is asking how many questions were asked from electromagnetism. Any trends?
Ma'am, from electromagnetism, since electromagnetism is basically we are talking about range, but if you see electromagnetic induction, we are expecting 2 questions in this one. Moving charges and magnetism, roughly 2 questions we have seen. Current electricity, again, we have seen 1 question. Electric charges and fields, 1 question. Potential, one. So it was a little bit scattered. But yes, electromagnetism, yet, as you have seen in the trends, it's an important chapter, and you can easily expect a cumulative of 4 to 5 questions from this segment.
And so, as you mentioned earlier, that the mathematics was more difficult as compared to physics. So, can you talk about the mathematics questions? Which are the areas which should be focused by the aspirants?
If you see the previous year trends, it will open the Pandora's box itself. Though you can easily predict that which are the chapters which is important. It is nothing like to hide. Limits, continuity and differentiability, matrices, determinants, three-dimensional geometry, sequence and series, including the binomial series as well, applications of derivatives, vector algebra. These are the 6 key chapters. If you focus around these chapters, you are easily able to make out 10 to 12 questions. That's for sure. And
Okay.
apart from this, if you focus, since the students are in class 12th, for them class 12th portion is anyway ready because of their board exams also. But from 11th, if you focus, if you want to focus something and score more, and if they are able to do that from 11th, mathematical reasoning, statistics, sets and relations, these are the 3 chapters which are very easy, less time consuming, and they will at least give you 2 to 3 questions in the exam. So if we strategically decide and see the
Mhm.
analysis of previous years, it will be much easier for us to add value to the final score.
Okay. So, sir, there is one more query on YouTube, and the query is that how many questions should students attempt section wise?
Ma'am, it again depends. Say generally, what happens is students are very much optimistic in some cases. Let's suppose in practice or during their mock test in mathematics, generally it happens that they are able to score 10 to 12 questions, correct? Then in the final exam, it is not going to happen that you will be able to solve 20 plus questions. So sometimes the mock test is a mirror replica what you are going to perform in the final exam. So if you are scoring 10 to 12 questions positive in mathematics during your mock test, in the final exam, you should limit yourself to 15 to 16 if you're not confident about the other questions. If you're super confident that, yes, I know the answer, this is correct answer, please go for it. Otherwise, limit yourself to 15, 16. So anything what your mock test have given you, an average of that plus 20% can be attempted in the paper if you are confident about it. Because since these exams are competitive exams, negative markings are there. So any student who attempts the similar question but does the less negative marking will get a better rank. So you should not be out to, or you should not be tempted to attempt the negative marking part.
True. And you also highlighted the importance of mock test while preparing for the JEE exams. So, how many mock tests should one take while before attempting the exam?
In the mock test, there can be 2 kinds of papers, ma'am. One is previous year questions. So last 5 years question papers are more than enough for any student within this period of time. If you're talking about, correct. If one has paper in 2 or 3 days, they can refer to the papers which has been done in past 4 5 years. It is readily available in the internet. You can download and practice it. It should be sufficient. But if you have sufficient time, I think for last 1 or 2 months, every day one mock test on the same time of the exam duration. Let's suppose your exam is at 2 to 5 and you generally expect it either between 9 to 12 or 3 to 6. So you sit
Yeah.
down at that duration and daily do one paper at least. If it is difficult, then at least 3 papers in a week, followed by thorough error analysis.
And
If you
one should
follow
be
this,
pretty honest while attempting the mock tests, right?
generally students falls in the misperception that if I do this, if I score here well, it may reflect good marks there. It doesn't happen. So one should be definitely honest, and if possible the parents to be acting as a proctor in these exams, it would help. Because what happens is in your home environment when you're studying, probably the students study on their bed or in their cozy areas, and they are too much accustomed to that. When it comes to the final exam hall, which probably will be in a different location and may not be that comfortable what they have seen in their home, they get disturbed and they are not able to adapt. So I think they should sit down properly on a table, set the clock, set the timer, ask the parent to be there so that they can get habituated for a proctor or an examiner standing in front of them. Because during exam, the examiner will come, he will budge you, he will check your admit card, the
Exactly.
details. You may happen that the mouse is not working or the system is not working, you have to change it. These things will happen, so you have to adapt yourself. Otherwise, what will happen at the last moment, you will panic, and in the panic, even if you know the answers, the students are not able to perform that much, because ultimately these are young minds, correct? They don't have that much maturity. Okay, whatever has happened, let me cope up for the next slot. It doesn't happen.
Talking about young minds, I've worked very closely with them. You know them thoroughly. So, can you tell about the impact of social media? Like, is it really helping them in preparing for the exams, or is it just distracting?
Ma'am, to most what I have seen, it's a two-edged sword. If you can use it, it's well. But many students, since in this era, they have the resources. So I have seen some students utilizing it very well, communicating with the peers, and it has good lot amount of advantage where they can connect, they can solve good questions, debate on the solution methods. Some students sometimes comes up with the easier method what a teacher is suggesting, because it's again an approach. But to most of the extent, I've seen the people get digressed, the student get digressed, and they get over consumed in the key. My friend is doing this book, my particular friend is doing that test series, and they get digressed from their core motto. And at the end, they have to realize that there is sufficient amount already on the plate which they have to absorb. They should not go for more. At this point of time, whatever they have done, it's most important they revise it, they make it thorough what they have, and if possible, stay away from social media, especially from the exam time, because it also add a fear that this particular student or my friend has done this much, I have not done this much, so I probably will not be able to do well in the exams, because it's not true. The paper may come from that chapter or may not come from that chapter. There are more than 2000 topics, and hardly 90 questions are going to come. It's not necessary that every topic will come in the exam. So even if you don't know two or three topics, it's okay for you to go out and perform, because at the end it's a competitive exam and you have to score better. You don't have to score 300.
Exactly.
This is something you have to remember. So from
And you
social
don't
media
always,
perspective,
have to compare yourself with others. That is what
in
is.
competitive exam, actually this is something which is important, to be competitively ahead of others. But what other is doing will definitely suit you, that doesn't happen. So you compare yourself on the scoring, how much you are scoring, but is he studying physics more, so I should also study physics more? It doesn't happen. For you, forte can be mathematics. Ultimately you have to score more. So if you are confident on mathematics and you are not confident on physics, you should score well on mathematics, focus more there and score more, correct?
Yes. Coming to that, while the question papers are there in front of students, okay, so everybody has their area in which they are specialized. How to start attempting the questions? Should we attempt the easier ones first or the difficult ones first? Just tell this last question, answer this last question, please,
it's
sir.
it's 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 more of a strategy which depends on every student. Every student is different and they have a different strategy. We don't tell student you have to only follow this strategy, because every student has a different predilection for any subject or a particular chapter. One chapter which is difficult for one and can be easier for the other child, correct? But
True.
for a child itself, they should be able to back those questions which are easier first, because it gives them a confidence boost. Let's suppose you start from question 1, you should be
Hmm.
able to solve the questions which are easy, and those where you are able to put in that, okay, I'll need time, you should keep them aside and back all those easy ones first. This has two advantage. One, it boosts your morale that yes, I am done through with the paper, I know most of the questions, I've already solved them. For the rest, I have a lot of time to think about, and then I can keep on solving and putting the adding extra egg to the basket. That something is a better strategy, but again it depends from student to student which chapter should they start with, or which subject should they start with.
Okay. So it's time to conclude our session. What are the suggestions you have for the exams which are scheduled for tomorrow for the aspirants?
I think from chapters perspective, chemistry, which is the scoring part, physics is anyway, you just go through the formulas. Every chapter, whatever formula, wherever you have written a single copy where you know the formulas are there, just revise it. Correct.
Okay.
For chemistry, it's important that you revise at least the summary of the inorganic chapters from the NCRT, because we have
Okay.
seen the questions which are directly based from the data points. For the physical chemistry, at least you should go through the formulas. Organic, it would be difficult because no direct questions are there, but you still revise those 40-50 questions, the formulas or the named chemistry, chemical reactions or organic reactions. For mathematics, I think again the chapter which I said, which is conic sections, vector
Yes.
3D algebra, limits, continuity and differentiability, matrices, determinants, 3D geometry. If you can go through these formulas, but in mathematics, wherever you use your strong area, what you have practiced more is more important. Do get a revision of it.
Okay. Thank you so much for such an useful insight, sir. The viewers can visit our website, timesnownews.com, for the detailed analysis. Thank you for joining, sir.
Thank you for having me here, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity. It was
Thank you.
nice to meet